Betrayal often comes from the most unexpected people. It could be a friend who starts acting coldly, a partner who disappears without explanation, or a colleague who stabs you in the back at the most inappropriate moment. What's most unpleasant is that we usually do not see betrayal until it is too late. But what if I tell you that the signs were on the surface, that all these hidden signals could have been noticed earlier? Carl Jung, a recognized guru of psychology, asserted that betrayal is not an accident, but a natural process hidden in the depths of the human psyche. When we understand how these hidden scenarios work, we can avoid unpleasant surprises. So why do people betray, and how can we learn to see these signs before the pain? Jung argued that betrayal is not always connected with you or what you have done. Often, it arises from a person's internal conflicts, from what they suppress within themselves. In psychology, Jung called this the shadow. He said that each of us has a shadow. These are the aspects of our personality that we do not accept or try not to notice. These are emotions, feelings, and desires that contradict how we want to perceive ourselves. But what happens when these feelings accumulate and find no outlet? They begin to project onto other people. When someone in your environment starts showing hostility, criticizing your successes, or even distancing themselves without explanation, it may be a consequence of their own shadow. For example, your success might remind them of their own insecurities, and instead of rejoicing with you, they begin to feel envy and resentment. Envy and insecurity are hidden feelings that become stronger each time if they are not recognized and worked through. And then, at some point, when your happiness or success becomes too much for the person, they begin projecting it onto you. This may manifest through hostility, criticism, or even sabotage. At some point, if this shadow becomes too heavy, the person may start secretly hindering you, hoping that this somehow helps them feel better. This is a process that lasts a long time, but we often do not notice it in the early stages. Why? Because in the initial phase, the person may not realize that their own complexes and internal contradictions have begun to influence their behavior. Betrayal often does not start with one blow, but with small details that we do not see at first. Initially, it may just be a cold look or silence instead of warm words. Then, biting comments begin. A person may initially hide their hostility, but it does not go unnoticed. And the more a person tries to hide their emotions, the more obvious they become to you. As they say, the body never lies. Even if the words say one thing, nonverbal signals, gestures, intonation, and body language all reveal true feelings. It is connected not with us personally, but with the internal conflicts of other people that they cannot resolve within themselves. This does not mean that their behavior is justified, but it explains why some people whom we consider close may betray us. Their shadow does not give them peace, and at some point, they begin to project their pain onto you. They do not do this consciously. When they feel they cannot be at your level or cannot have the same as you, they begin to destroy what you are building. To avoid betrayal, it is important to learn to notice these hidden signs and understand that it rarely happens unexpectedly. It develops from hidden emotions that have remained suppressed for a long time. Jung taught that a person whose shadow is not in control will always seek ways to project their own problems onto others. Therefore, it is so important to surround yourself with people who accept and understand their own weaknesses and internal conflicts. People who do not harbor hidden grievances will sincerely support you and rejoice in your successes. Those who suppress their emotions and do not withstand the pressure often become a source of it. Often, betrayal does not start with one blow, but with subtle changes that we may not notice. People who start behaving differently when they see your success usually do not admit their feelings. Deep inside, they may feel envy, insecurity, and even loneliness. But instead of confronting these feelings, Their mind chooses an easier path. They begin to project these feelings onto you. As a result, a thought is born in their head. I do not deserve this. How did he or she get it? Or he or she has changed. They are no longer the same person, and so betrayal begins in their mind long before the real act. The mind builds a case against you, distorting reality to justify its own ego. Imagine that you are working with a person with whom you have always had good collaboration. You help each other, share ideas, and celebrate successes. But then you get promoted, and their attitude changes drastically. Initially, this seems insignificant. They start sharing less information with you, maybe start gossiping about you. But this small stuff develops into something bigger. At some point, they may start actively working against you, trying to undermine your reputation or discredit you before colleagues. What is really happening is that in their shadow side, feelings have surfaced that they cannot admit. They begin to feel that they deserve the same as you, or even more. But instead of facing this pain and working it through, they turn their resentment into betrayal. Now imagine that you are working on yourself, striving for personal development, improving your health, changing habits, and developing a business. You expect your friends to support you and share your successes, but this is not always the case. One of them might start making sarcastic remarks, so disciplined. Must be nice. Do you think you are better than us? At first, you might think it is just a joke, but over time, you start noticing how often such comments are repeated. This person no longer supports you, and might even start belittling your achievements and turning away from you. Why? Because your growth reminds them of the things they cannot or do not want to change in their own lives. Instead of being inspired by your success, they turn it into a source of resentment. Their shadow side cannot cope with the fact that you are moving forward while they remain in place. How can you recognize these changes and protect yourself from such behavior? First of all, pay attention to the most subtle but important signals: detachment, sarcasm, lack of support, and avoidance of communication. Often, our heart tells us that something is wrong, and it is important to learn to trust our intuition. If you feel that something is not right, it most likely is. Second, set clear boundaries. If someone constantly tries to undermine your confidence or belittle you, it is important to create distance and make it clear that you will not accept this behavior. This should not concern you personally. Remember that their betrayal is more a reflection of their internal problems than your fault. Betrayal rarely comes suddenly. It is always the result of a slow psychological shift connected with suppressed emotions that gradually begin to come out. When you understand how the shadow side of a person works, you begin to notice these warning signs. This is important because the earlier you notice such changes, the easier it will be to defend your boundaries and protect yourself. People who undermine your confidence never do this openly. Instead, they slowly but surely make you doubt yourself. Perhaps they will not openly attack you, but their words and actions will gradually undermine your self-esteem, making you feel insecure and insignificant. It is important to learn to distinguish these hidden forms of betrayal and protect yourself from their impact. People who are envious rarely show it openly. Most often, they manifest detachment, cold behavior, or even feigned friendliness, hiding their true feelings. You might notice that a person with whom you used to communicate every day suddenly stops responding to your messages, ignores your successes, or avoids you for no apparent reason. Why? Because your growth reminds them of their own fears and failures. Instead of using this as motivation, they choose the path of resentment, which over time can grow into betrayal. Imagine that you and a colleague started working at the same company at the same time. You give it your all, show initiative, and soon you are noticed and promoted. You are happy, But suddenly you notice that the colleague with whom you used to joke during coffee breaks now barely says hello to you. You hear that they are telling others that your promotion is simply the result of the boss's favoritism. You learn that they are questioning your merits, undermining your authority before others, and possibly even sabotaging your work. They will not tell you to your face that they are envious, but their actions speak for them. The same thing can happen in childhood. You both dreamed of more, of a life full of opportunities, but only you managed to realize your dreams. Your friend remains in place, and instead of rejoicing for you or seeking inspiration, they turn into a person who makes sarcastic comments, is sarcastic, and then begins to behave alienated. You learn that they were talking about you behind your back, possibly revealing your secrets, or even trying to spoil your reputation in the general circle of communication. It is difficult to realize, but some people prefer to destroy someone else's success than build their own. Envy does not just spoil relationships. It destroys them, poisons trust, and turns close people into strangers. But envy is not the only driver. Sometimes it is not about resentment, but about the desire to dominate. There are people who cannot exist without feeling power over those around them. As soon as they feel that their influence is weakening, they take any steps to get it back, even if it means betraying you. This could be a friend who insists that they know how you should live your life better and starts discrediting your decisions. It could be a boss who supports you as long as you are subordinate to them, but as soon as you show independence, they immediately start putting a spoke in your wheel. It could be a partner who demonstrated love and care as long as you played by their rules. Carl Jung said that there is a hidden power struggle in any relationship, and as long as someone feels they can control you, they are nice and kind to you. But as soon as you get out of control, the person exposes their true face. This can be expressed in criticism, sarcasm, ignoring, manipulation, or even in open betrayal. Sometimes people do this not out of hatred for you, but out of fear of losing their position of influence. They do not like that you are becoming independent because it threatens their sense of superiority. But what to do with this? The most important thing is to be aware of who is around you. People who rejoice in your victories sincerely, those who support you without hidden motives. This is your true circle. Some people show friendliness as long as you are in your place, but their attitude changes when you grow. These are people who never saw you as an equal. They saw you as an instrument for reflecting their complexes, but not as a friend or partner. It is important to understand that someone else's envy is not your problem. You are not obliged to diminish your achievements so that someone feels more comfortable. You do not have to pretend that you have not achieved success just to avoid causing someone a feeling of inferiority. People who are truly confident in themselves do not envy. They are inspired by other people's successes. They use them as motivation. They rejoice for others because they know that other people's victories do not diminish their own value. But people who are afraid that they will not succeed choose a different path. It is easier for them to try to knock you off your height than to climb there themselves. It is easier for them to spread rumors than to admit to themselves that they could have worked more. It is easier for them to turn away from you than to admit that your success highlights their own limitations. And here is the main question. Is it worth keeping such people in your life? Betrayal, whether out of envy or a desire for power, hurts. But often it gives you something valuable, clarity. It shows who is really your ally and who is nearby as long as it was beneficial to them. It helps to weed out the unnecessary and surround yourself with those who sincerely want the best for you. When you start to stand out from others, especially at work, your success may be perceived not as a deserved reward for your work, but as a threat to those who are accustomed to their place in the hierarchy. For example, you are showing excellent results, the management is happy with you, and soon you become a key employee. But instead of supporting you, your immediate supervisor begins to criticize you, control your every step, and may even take part of your merits. Why? Because in their eyes, you are not just working well. You are becoming a threat to their own position. And if they feel that your promotion threatens their power, they will prefer not to develop you, but to slow you down, find fault with something, or even sabotage your work. This is not uncommon in the corporate world. Instead of being inspired by your success, they try to limit you. A similar dynamic is encountered not only at work. Look at the relationships between friends or partners. There are people who seem caring, attentive, and sincerely interested in your well-being. They give advice, support you, but only as long as you act according to their expectations. As soon as you start making your own decisions and setting boundaries, everything changes. They become cold, irritable, or even start manipulating you. Suddenly, it turns out that they are offended or disappointed in you, although the only thing that has changed is your confidence and independence. Sometimes they use a sense of guilt, making you feel guilty for the fact that you are no longer the same as before. Sometimes they demonstratively remain silent, forcing you to guess what you have done wrong. And sometimes they directly accuse you of selfishness, only because you have begun to take care of yourself. All this happens because your freedom destroys their illusion of control. Carl Jung said that human relationships are not only about friendship and love, but also about the struggle for power. Someone who builds their self-esteem on controlling another perceives someone else's independence as a loss of control, and therefore as a defeat. In such cases, betrayal manifests itself in an attempt to regain dominance through devaluation, manipulation, the creation of dramatic situations, or even public discreditation. For example, a person who envies your success may tell you ambiguous compliments that simultaneously praise and undermine your confidence. Or they may downplay your achievements. You just got lucky. Don't think it's that difficult. Many people can handle it. Or you think too much of yourself. The goal is to make you doubt yourself, to make your success no longer seem so significant to you. There is also another scenario, playing the victim. A person who is afraid of losing control may start pretending that you have betrayed them. They will portray themselves as unhappy, tell others how you have changed and become not the same as before. Why? Because if they show you in a bad light, they can maintain power over you. You will be convinced that you have to feel guilty, that you have to apologize, that you should not distance yourself so sharply. But in reality, this is just another tactic of manipulation. How to protect yourself from this? First of all, you need to learn to notice warning signs. If a person next to you supports you only as long as you are dependent on them, this is a red flag. If they become cold or aggressive as soon as you start acting independently, it means that their interests were never sincere. Secondly, it is important to be firm in your decisions. Manipulators feed on your doubts. They expect you to give in to emotions and start justifying yourself, proving your loyalty. But the more you enter this game, the stronger their control over you becomes. The most important step is to surround yourself with people who admire your strength, not those who want to control it. True friends, mentors, and partners will not be offended by your independence. They will not try to control you. They will not criticize you out of fear of losing their place in your life. They will be there because they value you for who you are. Betrayal is not about someone's evil intent, but often a result of others' fears and complexes. Carl Jung spoke of the projection of the shadow. We often see in others what we hide in ourselves. Sometimes a person betrays because they project their own weaknesses onto you. For example, a lying person may accuse you of dishonesty. An envious friend will say that you're envying them, and a person who is afraid of losing control may call you a manipulator. They are unaware of this, But in this way, they get rid of unpleasant feelings, shifting them onto you. Betrayal is always a shock, but an even more frightening realization comes later. The person you trusted was never who they seemed. Sometimes this betrayal occurs not out of malice, but because of internal conflicts. Imagine a friend who always condemns others for gossip, but one day accuses you of discussing people behind their backs. In fact, they see in you a reflection of their own behavior, even if it has nothing to do with you. This is called projection, a mechanism by which a person unconsciously attributes their shortcomings to others. They do not want to admit that they themselves are behaving dishonestly, and it is easiest to shift the blame onto someone else. Or, for example, your partner starts suspecting you of cheating, checking your phone, and making scenes of jealousy, even though you have not even thought about betrayal. It is quite possible that in reality, they themselves are guilty of deception. Instead of facing the truth, they shift their fears and guilt onto you. Carl Jung said that people who refuse to recognize their shadow side look for an external enemy to blame. They betray in order to avoid admitting their own mistakes. A person who cannot be honest suspects others of lying. Someone who is prone to envy is sure that everyone around them is envious of them. Someone who betrays is afraid of being betrayed. In such situations, it is important to remember that people's behavior is always about them, not about you. If they are trying to shift the blame onto you, do not accept their accusations as your own. If their words have no basis, it is most likely a reflection of their own inner world, not your behavior. Do not let their projections make you feel guilty. They are fighting not with you, but with their demons, and they are simply using you as a convenient target. Do not try to convince them. They will not listen until they look in the mirror of their own free will. But not all betrayals are related to internal conflicts. Sometimes they happen coldly, consciously, and this is perhaps the most painful. When a person sees you not as a friend or partner, but as a tool, a resource that can be used as long as it is beneficial. Such people charm you, make you feel special, and build trust, and all this only in order to later take what they need. They know how to say the right words, give compliments, and show interest as long as they receive benefits. But as soon as the situation changes, their true face becomes obvious. Suppose you have a friend who calls you only when they need something: money, help, emotional support. You are always there, always ready to help. But when one day you need support, this person is not there. Moreover, then you learn that they were talking behind your back, passing off your ideas as their own, or even openly betraying you. Why? Because you are never a friend to them, only a convenient resource. The same behavior is found at work. A colleague may pretend to be supportive, praise your achievements, and pretend to work with you on one team, and then steal your project and pass it off as their own. Or a boss who uses your work, but does not give you a promotion because they are afraid of competition. For such people, betrayal is not personal, but simply a way to reach a goal. They do not worry, do not feel guilty, because they initially did not see you as a person, only as a way to get a benefit. The most painful thing is to realize that you once considered such a person close. This makes you doubt yourself, in your choice of people, in your value. But the truth is that their actions say nothing about you. They only reveal their true nature. How to protect yourself. Stop justifying such behavior. If a person appears in your life only when they need something, take a closer look. Set boundaries. Do not let people use your kindness. If someone has betrayed you for the sake of profit, one day they will do it again as soon as the opportunity arises. Yes, betrayal hurts. It undermines trust in people and makes you question your own decisions. Remember that this is not your fault. It is their choice, and it is not the end, but a revelation. Over time, It becomes clear who was there sincerely and who was just using you, and this knowledge is priceless. After all, betrayal does not make you weaker. It makes you wiser. It teaches you to observe and not blindly trust. It helps to see the true nature of people and value those who are truly worthy of trust, because those who truly value you will never betray you.